work out question 9 from your homework. So I'm now going to look at question 9 from your homework. And we're in 5.3. And we're going to be looking at question 9. And this is using Cramer's rule. So this is going to be using Cramer's rule. Now, what we're going to be doing today is we'll be going over this question, and then we're going to be looking at questions that you might have from your take-home final or your practice final. And then we'll see how much time we have after that. And on Thursday, we're going to answer more questions from your practice final or your take-home final. And then get ready for our final, which, remember, our final exam is on Wednesday, if I remember right. You've got that final exam schedule. Does anybody need the final exam schedule? I think everybody's got it, I think. Veronica, do you need the final exam schedule? Okay, you're going to be taking it early? So you'll be taking yours on this Thursday? Okay. Yep, and yeah, if you're leaving early, make sure that I get all your homework that needs to be graded as well. Okay, I've got some of it graded. I'll make sure I get everything that I need to have it graded on Thursday. Okay? Otherwise, our final, I think, is on Wednesday. My other class is on Thursday, but ours is just so we can keep track of things. Okay, our class is at 11 on Tuesday, Thursday. Okay, so ours is at 11 on Tuesday, Thursday. So ours is going to be Wednesday, December 14th at 10. Okay, so it's going to be Wednesday, December 14th at 10. So that's going to be our final exam. So just make sure everyone knows it's a different day and a different time. So let's go ahead now and look at 5.3, and we're going to go over question 9. We covered a lot of this last time. We just didn't quite have enough time to do much with Cramer's rule. And I think we left off with question 9. So I'll do either 8 or 9. I'll do 9, and you can do 8. Now, let's remember how Cramer's rule works. Okay, Cramer's rule says this. Cramer's rule says that x is dx over d, y is dy over d, and z, in our case, since we have 3 variables, is dz over d. So Cramer's rule is a little bit different, and this is how a computer would calculate these systems. So a computer uses what's called Cramer's rule. So we're going to look at question 9 from your homework. And again, this is question 9. And I'm going to write this, and I'm going to plug in zeros for whatever we're missing. So just so we don't make a mistake, I'm going to plug in that 0y plus 3z equals 16. So I'm plugging the 0 in for the y because it's missing that. Then we've got 7x plus 5y minus 9z equals minus 26. And then I have minus 3x minus 7y and 0z equals a minus 45. So that's what we've got. So if you're missing any variables, you use a 0. So is everyone okay with that? Now for Cramer's rule, we have to use our determinants. So we're going to have to calculate 4 different determinants. And I know we covered determinants a little bit last time. And when you have 2 variables, it's a lot easier than when you have 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate my master determinant D. And D is just these numbers. So we have minus 5, 7, and a minus 3. We have 0, 5, and a minus 7. And then we have 3, a minus 9, and a 0. What do we have to do? Well, we have to come up with our 3 smaller determinants that we can work through. We want to expand across the top row because the top row, we don't want to go down the side. We want to go across the top row because of this 0. Right? We want to use zeros because that's going to make it as easy as possible. And the signs switch, so they go plus, minus, and plus. Okay, so let's start with our first one. Let's expand across the top. And we've got our minus 5. What's our determinant look like? So we cross it off, and what's our determinant going to be? 5, negative 9, minus 7, 0. Now, we're going across the top. So the next one is going to be with this 0. So if I expand with the 0, when we go here, what do we have? We have a 0 out in front, right? And then we've got 7 and minus 9 and minus 3 and 0 below. Now, why is it a nice thing to have the 0? Because 0 times anything is what? So that is gone. So you want to use zeros because they make your life easier. So either go across the top, down the side, or down the middle. Wherever there's zeros is where you want to go. We've got one more. And the next one we're going to expand across is the 3. So that's going to be here. And we're going to expand this way and this way. And what does that leave me with? 75, minus 3, and minus 7. Okay. Now, we don't have to worry about the middle because it's 0 and it's gone. So it actually makes it a lot easier. Now, how does it work when we do these determinants when they're down to 2? Okay. Cross, multiply, and subtract, right? Be very, very careful with the signs because it is so easy to make one little sign error. So what we have is we have a minus 5 in front. And what's going to go inside? Remember, we go 5 times 0, right? Minus a minus 7 times a minus 9. This one's gone, so then we have a 3, and that's going to be then 7 times a negative 7. And then watch your signs here. Minus a minus 3 times 5. Is everyone okay with that? You always have to subtract them off. Let's break them down and see what we've got. You'll need a calculator here. 5 times 0, well, that is 0. How many negatives do we have? 3. 1, yep, 2, 3. So if it's 3 negatives, what's it stay? Negative. And 7 times 9, that's a 63. So we have a negative 63. We still have the negative 5 in front, which we'll deal with that in a moment. What about the next one? 7 times negative 7, that's a minus 49. A double negative here makes that then a positive. 5 times 3 is a 15. You can skip steps if you want to. You can do it all in your calculator if you want to. But you got to be careful that you don't make a sign error. It is so easy to do that. So now we've got 63 times 5, and a double negative makes it a positive 315. What about the next one? The next one, we've got a 3, and we've got minus 49, and a positive 15, so that makes it a negative 34. And now we've got 315 minus 3 times 34, and it's a negative, keeps a negative 102. Putting those together, we get out a positive what? 213. So we're now a fourth of it done. So we got D. Now we're going to repeat the process for dx, dy, and dz. So that's what we've got so far. We need to make sure we keep track of this, and this is our D. It's a time-consuming process. It's not really that difficult. It just takes time to do and go through. So let's do dx now. And this is going to give us x at the end. So this is a fourth done. So let's try to now get dx. Now how does dx go? We are going to get rid of the x. So the x becomes the equals. And then y and z stay the same. So there's my system there. And I'll move it in just a moment. Just want to make sure we match everything up. Okay, so what's going to go here is 16 minus 26 and a minus 45. Is everyone okay with that? Because that's my equals. Y is then 0, 5, and negative 7. Z is then 3, negative 9, and 0. Okay, so move it up so we can keep track of that. Is everyone all right with how I put that together? Now, where do we want to expand? We've got options. We wouldn't want to expand down this column. Why not? There's no zeros here. We can expand this way because it has a 0, or we can expand down this way. I'm just going to expand across this way. And how do the signs go? Plus, minus, plus. So let's just expand across the top again. So 16. Okay, let's try to get our determinant. And cross it out. And what do we have? 5 and negative 9. Minus 7 and 0, right? Okay, easy enough there. The next one is 0. And what does that leave you with? Negative 26, negative 9, minus 45, and 0. But do we even need to worry about this one at all? No, right? Because 0 out in front, that's why we did it. We don't want any extra steps than are absolutely necessary. What about my last one? Right, we're expanding across, so we went here. Now we're going to go with the 3. So the 3 comes down, and we cross it off. So what do we have? Negative 26 and 5. And minus 45 and minus 7, right? So is everyone all right with that so far? Now we need to work it out. So we only have to do 2 of these instead of 3. So now we've got 16, and then we cross multiply again. So 5 times 0 minus a minus 7 times a minus 9. This piece is gone. The last one is 3. Again, cross multiply here. And what do we have? Okay, we've got 3, and that's going to be now. Is everything all right? So we see how this is working? Yep, cross multiply. So we've got the 3 out in front, and that's going to be a minus 26 times a minus 7. Watch your signs, and then we got a minus 45 because it has to be subtracted off times 5. Because they always have a negative in the middle. Okay, so let's go ahead and break this one down. 5 times 0 is 0 again, right? And again, it is Very, very easy to make a mistake. On your final, you're not going to have anything that's this difficult. It's going to be 2 variables, 2 equations. That's it. Not 3 by 3. They take too long, and they're too easy to make a mistake on. But I felt like I had to present it in your homework. And we have 3 negatives here, so that makes it a negative 63. We've got a 16 out in front. And then the next one, we got negative and negative. That makes that positive. 26 times 7. That makes it a positive 182. And then we've got a negative and negative. That makes it a positive. And 45 times 5, that's a 225. And 16 times a negative 63 makes it a minus 1008. These can go together here. 182 plus 225, well, that's a 407 times 3. And 407 times 3 makes it a 1221, right? And negative 108 plus 1221, what does that come out to give you? Got a minus 1008 plus 1221. That gives you 213. That is dx. Now, what is x? X is dx over d, and dx was 213. D was 213, remember, right? Back up above. 213 over 213, that makes it a what? 1. That's the first part. Yep. Half of it's done. Yep, half of it's done. We're about halfway finished. Sure. You could. We're just going to use Cramer's rule. We're going to do all of them with Cramer's rule. But yes, you could. I mean, when it comes to these equations, if you go on into higher level mathematics courses, there are many different ways to solve these. And yes, you could substitute it back. Okay, that's another way of doing it. You could rewrite it and use Gauss-Jordan from here. You could have made your life easier and got a 0 at the beginning. Many, many different ways of solving this. I'm just going to work it completely out using Cramer's rule. But yes, you could use back substitution. When you substitute this 1 back in, that'd be back substitution. So when I did Gauss-Jordan, I said it was Gauss-Jordan with back substitution because you substituted back. But in Cramer's rule, I'm just going to work it all the way out. So what do we need now? We need dy. And Cramer's rule is how a computer does it. Because a computer could do this in a fraction of a second. It does millions of calculations, and it would have no trouble doing this. This is how a computer does it, is it uses Cramer's rule. So now, here's our original. Okay, we need dy. Now, what is dy? Okay, dy is x, the equal sign, and the z. So let's look at our numbers. Just fold the paper here so we can keep track of what we got. Okay, so we've got x to be 1. Now, there's our original, right? Okay, so x is the same, so that's minus 5, 7, minus 3. What variable are we substituting in for the equals? Y. So y is now the equals. So what goes down the middle? 16 minus 26 and minus 45. Okay, so that gets there. And what about the z? Z is 3, negative 9, and what? 0. Okay. Now, I would not want to go down the side, or I would not want to go across the top. Why not? Because they don't have any zeros, do they? Where's our 0? So we're going to go down this column. Doesn't matter how you do it. You can go in any column or even sometimes on the diagonal. But try to utilize that 0. Okay, so let's go down this column. So we're going to start with the 3. So cofactor, expand that out. And again, remember, how do our signs go? Plus, minus, plus. So you have to keep track of that. So if I go like this with the 3, I've got 3, crossing it out, 7, and minus 26, minus 3, and minus 45, right? Okay, easy enough there. Next one. Now watch your signs. Sign is a negative, right? It's already got a negative 9 with it. So you got to watch that double negative, which we'll deal with that in a moment. Okay, what does it look like? Let's make sure we know what it would look like. So it looks like it's going to be minus 5 and 16, minus 3 and minus 45, right? Minus 5 and 16, minus 3 and minus 45. Our last one is 0. We'll fill it in, but it doesn't matter because that 0 in front is going to make it what? 0. So we'll go ahead and fill it in, but it really doesn't matter. And what would it be? Yep, it'd be 0, but what's my minor? Minus 516. Yep, and minus 516 and 7 and a minus 26. That's gone. Okay. And this is called cofactor expansion. And there's even a neat trick where you can rewrite the whole thing over to the side and do it in one step. I think that's more confusing. Cofactor expansion, I think, is the easiest way to do these, but there's all kinds of tricks and different ways of solving these. So let's now go ahead and work this out. Now I know the double negative at that 9 is going to make that a positive. So we'll take care of that. And let's write up our multiplication. So we have 3. And then we cross multiply here. So it's 3 times 7 times a negative 45 minus a minus 3 times a minus 26. Then we have the double negative, makes it a positive 9. What's going to go with it? Minus 45 times a minus 5. We've got a minus. So we've got a minus 3, which is a minus 3 times that 16. Okay, so now we work it through. And you can do this all at once in your calculator if you really, really want to. You just really want to avoid making sign errors and simple mistakes. So I like doing it in pieces. So we've got 7 times a 45. It's a single negative, so that's a minus 315. 1, 2, 3 negatives keeps that negative. And 3 times 26, well, that's a 78, and it's a negative, right? Watch your signs there. Then we've got 9. Double negative makes it a positive. 45 times 5 is a 225. Double negative makes that a positive. And 3 times my 16. Well, that makes it now 48, doesn't it? Okay, let's make sure we didn't make a mistake anywhere. Yep, everything looks right. Double check. I want to make sure. I worked this out in the last class period. I want to make sure you got everything right before I make a mistake. Yep, everything looks right. Okay. Just want to double check because it's so easy to make a mistake with these. Let's break it down one more time. So we have 3. These go together. So 315 and 78, add those together. That's a minus 393. Everything looks right there. Then we have 9 times, add those together. 225 plus 48. That's a 273. 3 times a minus 393. That's a minus 1179. And 9 times 273. That's a 2457. Add those together. We're almost done now with half of it. Add those together, and we get a 1278. That is dy. And so what's y going to be? Yep, y is dy over d, which is 1278 over 213? Yep, 213, 213. And that comes out to then be 6, doesn't it? Yep, everything looks right. Very time-consuming process. Now, if this had 4 variables, it would almost be impossible to do by hand. Because if it was 4, we had to take each 4, split each 4 up into 3, split each 3 down into 2. So, computers have made this to where they're doable. To do a 4 would take several, well, it wouldn't take several hours. It would take about an hour if you were quick to do a 4. Because you have to do it basically 12 times because you have the 4 in each one of those. Well, it'll be more than that because you have 4 variables, so you'd have to do 5 determinants, take each one of those, break it down into 12 parts apiece. So you'd have a lot. A computer can do this in a fraction of a second. But it's important to see how it's done. Yep, we got one more. So now we need to get z. And so we need dz. And dz is x, y, and we're replacing z with an equals. Okay. And let's go back again and look at our original. So there it is. Okay, let's fill it in. So we have minus 5, 7, minus 3. We have 0, 5, and a negative 7. And then z gets replaced with 16, a negative 26, and a negative 45, right? Okay. Is everyone all right with that? Now, where are we going to expand across? I would say expand across this row here because the 0's there. So we could either go across or we could go down. Either way. We'll just go across. I think that's going to be the easiest way. And so let's expand this determinant out. And so I've got, remember how the signs go, plus, minus, plus again. So I've got a minus 5 out in front. Okay, crossing it off. We have a 5 and a minus 26. Minus 7 and minus 45, so there's that one. And then 0, doesn't matter, but we'll write it down. Okay, 0, if I cross it off, is going to be 7, minus 26, minus 3, and a minus 45. Now that one doesn't matter because 0 times anything is what? 0, and it's gone. And the last piece. The last one is that 16. And then what do we have? If I cross it off, 7 and 5, right? Minus 3 and a minus 7. Okay, let's go ahead now and cross multiply on these. And then down. So we've got a minus 5, and we have 5 times a minus 45, minus, watch your minus there, minus 7 times a minus 26, right? They're not bad once you get used to doing them. We've got 16, and up and down. So we've got a 16. And that's going to get multiplied by a minus 3 times 5. Right? And then we have, oops, sorry about that. About wrote that one backwards. Yep, sorry about that. My mistake. Remember, it should be down first. So it's 7 times a negative 7. Got in a hurry there. And then we've got a minus minus 3 times 5, right? Because you go down and then up, down and then up. Yep, and I about made a mistake there. And again, it's so easy to do. You have to be very careful with the order. Watch all of your signs. Okay, let's split this up. We've got a minus 5. And 5 times a negative 45, well, that stays negative. Yep, negative 225. 1, 2, 3 negatives stays negative. 7 times 26, that's a minus 182. And then we've got 16. 7 and negative 7, that's a minus 49. Double negative here makes that a positive 15. Put those together. 182, 225, both negative, go together. So add those up, and that's a minus 589. And a minus 5 in front. And over here we have a 16, and we have 49 that's negative, and a 15 that's positive. So that gives you now a negative 34, doesn't it? Double check and make sure something's. I think everything's right. Let me just double check and make sure, because I worked this out last class period. I don't want to make a mistake again. Everything looks right. Yep, we're on the right track. Okay. Wait a minute. How did I get that 589? That's not right. Let's add those up again. Double check. I think I added wrong. So these go together. And that should be, sorry about that. I knew there was a mistake. That should be a minus 407, shouldn't it? Sorry about that. I just added wrong. Yep. That, when I put those together, 225 and 182, when I add those together, that should give you 407. If I made a mistake, I knew something was wrong. I could just feel it. But that's where my mistake was, because those go together, and that gives you that. Okay, everything else, I believe, is right. Yep, everything else is correct so far. Now we can multiply. Negative and negative makes that a positive. So 5 times 407. Yep, that's 2035, isn't it? And 1 negative keeps that negative. And 16 times 34, that's a minus 544, isn't it? Double check. Everything looks right, but I just want to double check and make sure. Yep. And then I put those together in a positive and a negative. Okay, those can go together. So 2035 minus 544. Well, that comes out to be a positive 1491, doesn't it? Okay. And then what does z look like? dz over d, which is now 1491 over d, which is 213. And if we did it correctly, it should come out to be the whole number, then what? 7. So what does my ordered triplet now look like? X, Y, and Z. 1, 6, and 7, isn't it? Okay. Now, I know you can use a calculator and you can do this in just a quick second. Do you have a question? Are we finished? Sure. Which one? Which one are we looking at? 13? Okay, so let's see. First thing you do is you find your distance. So put those together. So minus 2 and put that together, minus 4. That makes it a minus 6, right? Where did we come up with minus 3? Here, I'll help you with that. I think your distance is wrong.
Because I find the minus point is center.
Okay, let's make sure we've got, because we got to find our distance. So that's going to be a minus 2, right? Minus 4 squared.
But sorry, but I have in my notes that I need to find my midpoint.
Midpoint's the center, right? But the first, and you can do that as well, either way. Because if you have that, okay, you add them together, minus 2 and 4. Okay, so that's going to be your center there. This is the distance over here. And we'll make sure it's right. This has got a mistake here. Okay, so what we've got is we've got a minus 2 plus 4, right? Minus 2 plus 4 is 2. Half of 2 should be a 1,
yeah.
because remember, you add them together. Does that make sense?
So if I take this, so it's gonna be
So let's look at our take-home final, and let's look at question 7. So we're now going to look at question 7. Now for question 7, make sure we're on the take-home final, not the practice one. The other class asked about 7 and 9, so we'll go ahead and work them out for this class as well. Okay, question 7. There is going to be a question almost exactly the same on your final exam. So let's read it and let's make sure that we know how to get the equation. You're going to have to solve it, but I will get you to the equation. It is necessary to have a 40% antifreeze solution in the radiator of a certain car. The radiator now has 60 liters of a 20% solution. How many liters of this should be drained and replaced with pure antifreeze with 100% to get the desired strength? This is a mixture question. And we need to draw our diagram. So let's think about what we've got here. The first part. It is necessary to have a 40% antifreeze solution in the radiator of a car. So that 40% is what we want at the end. Right? The box number 3 is at the end. So I want to end up with a 40% antifreeze solution. Okay? Now, what do we have? It says the car now has 60 liters of a 20%. Is everyone okay with that? Everyone see where that came from? 60 liters of a 20%. What about the second box? This is going to be my pure. Now, we're going to add in some, and that pure is going to be pure, so it's what? Percentage-wise would be 100%, right? Is everyone okay with this so far? 60 liters, 20% goes here. Pure, unknown amount, 100% here. Now, we want to get this 40%. We can't overflow the radiator, so it has to be equal to 60, right? It comes in full, has to leave full. Now, I can't just add more in because it'll overflow, so whatever I add in, I have to also do what? Subtract off. So that's why this one is 60 minus x, and this one's 60, because these go together, and what happens with the positive and the negative x? They do what? They cancel, and that leaves you with 60 equals what? 60. So everyone see how it all goes together. Now let's make our pure. I'm going to get you to the equation, and you're going to have to finish it. But let's build up our equation. So for our pure, that would be 0.2. That's your 20. And it's going to get multiplied by 60 minus what? X. Right? Those go together and make that. 100% is what? 1 as a decimal. So that's 1x. And that's 1. And that's 2 there. And what does box 3 look like? 40%, and so that's 0.4. And how much is in there? 60x, right? Oh, sorry, 60 there. Can you finish it from here? Should be able to, right? Is everyone okay with how I built that equation? So that first part, when it says it is necessary to have a 40% antifreeze solution, that means my 40% has to go in box 3, because that's what you need at the end. This is the pure, and this is what I have now. I can't just add in stuff because it'll overflow, so I have to add it in and also subtract it off. So this is your equation that you're going to use to finish it. Question 9 is very, very similar. These are the two, 9 and 10 are the ones where students are most likely to make a mistake. These are the mixture questions. So we're going to read it. We're really going to take our time and make sure you see where all the pieces go. A chemist needs 110 milliliters of a 73% solution. He has a 67 and an 89%. How many milliliters of each should be mixed together to get the desired solution? The hard part is always setting up the boxes. One, 2, and 3. Amount, percentage rate. Now, box 3. Box 3 represents what we need at the end. So what do we need to end up with? Well, we need to end up with, at the end, we need 110 milliliters of a 73% solution, right? Is everyone okay with why that goes in box 3? Because box 3 is what we need. So we associate that need with box 3. Now we can finish it because what do we have next? We have a 67% and we have an 89%. Do we know how much of the 67% we have? Does it tell us at all? No. So what would we use here? An X, okay, because that's unknown. Now, what about the second one? Do we know how much of the 89% we have? No. So how do we handle it? It's the total minus X, and what's our total? Total is 110, so it's going to be 110 minus X there. Let's take a moment to think about what we've got. So let's make sure we understand it, because you're going to see this basically same question. This is number 9 here. Same question on your final. A chemist needs 110 milliliters of a 73% solution. So what we need goes in box 3. Associate the need with box 3. We have a 67 and an 89%. We don't know how much is in the 67, so we use an X. The 89, we use 110 minus X. You can finish it from here. Build your equation and finish it. I'm not going to work out any more of it. I think we've got enough time to also look at question 10. Question 10 says, find 2 consecutive odd integers whose product is 255. So what do we know about odd numbers? How do they work? When we talk about odd numbers, they have a gap of what? How many spaces? If I'm at 1, how do I get to 3, which is the next odd number? I have to add what? 2, right? If I'm at 5, what's the next odd number? 7. What do we have to add? 2. So these have a gap of 2. So the first number, we're going to call it x. The second number, how much am I going to have to add to it? Can someone tell me? X plus 2. Very good work, Veronica. And now we're going to put these together. Now, what do we know? We know now that the product is 255. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yep, you're welcome. And you have a great break.
See you next time.
Yep. And I'll have your grades posted in Canvas probably this week. I'll have it done before Thursday for sure. Okay? Yep, you have it. You have a great trip, San Diego. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about our product. Our product is 255. Oh. Thank you. So when we talk about a product of 225, what does that mean? That means we've got the first number times the what? Second number, and what does that have to equal? 255. So that is then x times x plus 2 equals 255, right? I'll do one more step, and then I'll leave the last part of it for you to do. So go ahead now and distribute your x through. So that is x squared plus 2x equals now 255. I'm going to move the 255 over. And then I've got x squared plus 2x minus 255 equals 0, and you can finish it. Now, how many solutions should you have? You should have 4 solutions, right? Yep. Two positive and 2 negative. What questions does this look like in your practice final? Well, if you go back and look on your practice final, okay, let's look at the practice final. This is going to look just like question number, let me find it here on our practice final, question 25. This is going to be like number 25, I believe it's 25, double check. Yep, 25 on the practice final. So it's going to look just like question 25 on that practice final. So you're going to solve it, and you're going to get 4 numbers. 2 of them are going to be positive, 2 of them are going to be negative. We'll cover some more questions from your take-home final and questions on that practice final again on Thursday. Okay, so just so we know, when is our final? Let's make sure we've talked about this numerous times, but when is our final? Let me find that sheet. When's our final? Let's look and make sure. You don't want to make a mistake and not show up to the final. When's our final? Okay, our class meets at what? Our class meets at 11 on Tuesday, Thursday, right? So that means our final is going to be when? 10 o'clock on the 14th. So make sure you're here on 10 o'clock on Wednesday, December 14th, unless you're taking it early. So let me go ahead and pass out the sign-in sheet. Here's the sign-in sheet. And if you've got homework or graded homework, it should be over here. So be sure you sign the sign-in sheet, and any graded homework you have is up here.
I solved the question.